And now I'd like to welcome our guest worship leader this morning, our Minister Emerita, Reverend Diane Teichert. For those of you who don't know her, Diane was called to Paint Branch in 2009 and served until she retired in 2015 due to a stroke she suffered the year before. During her ministry, we accomplished many things. We worked to become an intentional multicultural congregation. We began including children in each service and started all age services. We started the Community Learning Center, offering ESL classes to immigrant neighbors. Diane got very involved in the successful marriage equality campaign in Maryland. We adopted a lay leadership covenant. We rebuilt the deck and began envisioning a major renovation to our physical space. Diane is now involved with the Unitarian Universalist Legislative Ministry of Maryland, the Prince George's County Lynching Memorial Project, and the UU Ministers Association. I'm very pleased to welcome her back to the pulpit this morning. I didn't grow up in Maryland, so I didn't hear the state song performed throughout my lifetime. I first became aware of it when a new version was introduced to replace it. I learned that there had been efforts to repeal it going back to the 1960s, and for good reason. Maryland, My Maryland was written by James Ryder Randall in the early days of the Civil War. Although a native Marylander, he taught in Louisiana and was apparently outraged by the news of Union troops marching through the streets of Baltimore. The song refers to Northern scum and incites Marylanders to avenge the patriotic gore that flecked the streets of Baltimore. Because the despot's heel, referring to President Lincoln, is on thy shore. Confederate troops sang it as a rally cry as they crossed into battle in Frederick, Maryland. This egregious song had been representing my beloved adopted state since 1939. Many state anthems eulogize history, culture, or natural beauty. I grew up singing, "By thy rivers gently flowing, Illinois, Illinois." A state song is supposed to represent the best in us, to lift up what we are most proud of. Instead, Maryland was represented by a pro-slavery war cry. Wasn't there something better to replace it? In fact, there was. Elise Bryant, the director of the Labor Heritage Foundation, urged just the right people to write a new song. In August of last year, a new composition, Maryland, My Maryland, the Free State Song, was introduced. Actually, it burst on the scene. The music was written by Steve Jones, music director of the DC Labor Chorus and a member of Cedar Lane UU Church, and Representative Jamie Raskin, US Congressman for my own 8th district in the House of Representatives. Jamie is the most tireless progressive politician I've ever known. He deeply believed that this symbol of our racist past needed to be banished for good. He wanted a musical symbol that corrected the old and that more citizens could see themselves in. Maryland is a state all about freedom and democracy, he said. The new lyrics lift up Maryland's heroes like Harriet Tubman, Thurgood Marshall, and Rachel Carson, among others. Our capital in Annapolis is a place where anyone can make their voices heard, and the diverse beauty of the Western Mountains and the Chesapeake Bay is celebrated. It demolishes the old symbols for a restorative one that our school children can be proud to sing. When the new song was being publicized, our own Minister Emerita, Diane Teichert, came up with the idea of a video of the song to promote it as the official replacement. Through the Unitarian Universalist Legislative Ministry of Maryland, she recruited singers from UU congregations all over the state and added more from the DC Labor Chorus and the Charm City Labor Chorus in Baltimore. Almost 50 singers participated. A team of dedicated folks produced the video for which she was the producer. Diane enlisted my help in finding some of the images. I know that patriotic songs don't bring a wash of pride over everyone if we don't feel included in the narrative. We know how important it is for children especially to see people like themselves in our stories. The lyrics to the new songs try to repair some of the damage, and the video enhances the lyrics. We wanted to show our respect for Marylanders who protected our freedoms, enlivened our arts, and built our industries, especially African Americans who had been so left out in the past. So we tried hard to make the images inclusive, not only of the people, but also of the places that we work and play, the mountains, the Chesapeake Bay, Prince George's County. The old Confederate song was finally repealed this year. Tragically, it took the murder of George Floyd to force a reckoning for symbols of our racist past, which included our divisive anthem. A new state song has not yet been adopted. There are others vying for attention. This is the song written by Steve Jones and Jamie Raskin with singers from all over the state of Maryland. You'll recognize some familiar paintbranch faces. This is Maryland, My Maryland, the Free State Song.
Free state began to find its name. Harriet Tubman built a secret lane to come on board this freedom train. Maryland, my Maryland, I'm coming back again. From the western mountains to the ocean city shore, Rockville to Baltimore, Maryland's my Maryland. Rachel Carson told of the silent spring, of the time when birds no longer sing.
Restore the Chesapeake for me and you,
And all the Orioles will come home too. Maryland, my Maryland, I'm coming back again. From the western mountains to the ocean city shore, Rockville to Baltimore, Maryland's my Maryland. The artist's dream, the writer's words will flow. We come back to the grave of Edgar Allan Poe.
Or gardenia in the hair of Billie Holiday tells the
Promise of Maryland today. Maryland, my Maryland,
message to all the land.
If you want progress, come and make your demand. Maryland, my Maryland, I'm coming back again. From the western mountains to the ocean city shore, Rockville to Baltimore, Maryland's my Maryland.
Oh, say, can you see Elijah Cummings now? Never took his hand from the freedom plow.
And Justice Thurgood Marshall brought down Jim Crow.
So let the waters of righteousness flow.
Maryland, our Maryland, we're coming back again. From the western mountains to the ocean city shore, Rockville to Baltimore, Maryland, Maryland.
Reverend Diane, you need to unmute.
Mishap number one. Another one was that we intended to show the version of the video with closed captions, and that's not what you just viewed. However, you can find it on the Unitarian Universalist Legislative Ministry of Maryland's YouTube channel on your own if you want to hear it, understand the words better. I apologize for that. But I hope this video warmed your heart as it does mine every time I watch it, even now, 6 months after it premiered. And I hope it inspired you. Did you recognize some PBUUC faces among the singers? Aaron Eva Torrey was spotlighted in the first minute and throughout the opening chorus. Allison Hughes sang the solo about democracy, quoting Frederick Douglass, "If you want progress, come and make your demand." And Montana Menardis sang the solo about the late US Representative Elijah Cummings, who never took his hand from the freedom plow. Montana grew up attending Paint Branch with his family and served as a youth worship associate during my ministry. The song was first recorded in August 2020 as a solo sung by London Mava, a young Black woman, a rising senior at Northwestern High School in Prince George's County, where I rode my mobility scooter to drop my early ballot last fall. She was fantastic. The music was a jazzy love song to Maryland, and the lyrics called out Maryland figures from history who I revere. It was pro-organizing, anti-racism, pro-justice for all, pro-environmental protection. It was me, and it was the state I want to live in. I wanted to do something more with that song, and as a board member of our statewide Unitarian Universalist Legislative Ministry of Maryland, I knew that we needed a way to build enthusiasm for our annual kickoff of the annual session, legislative session in January, usually held at the UU Church in Annapolis, but was going to have to be virtual, and I was worried nobody would attend. So I thought a virtual choral rendition of the song by UU singers might draw them and members of their congregations to attend. I contacted the composer, a UU himself. I and other UULM-D board members and some of the UU singers contributed to help pay for the production costs, which is why the video can be found on our YouTube channel. As Polly rejoiced earlier, Maryland's musical monument to the Confederacy was finally toppled in 2021. And I like to think that the emails from the singers and UULM-MD members to their state senators and delegates, with a link to our video, of course, helped build the momentum for the repeal. I couldn't get up my gumption to record myself singing, but I did submit video testimony to the General Assembly hearings on the song repeal bills. Maybe the repeal was just a symbolic racial justice gesture. I don't think so, but we will return to that question in a few minutes. First, it's important to acknowledge that real, tangible policy progress was also made in the 2021 legislative session. UULM-MD and many coalition partners and their members, we made our demands. What did we win? A package of long-sought police reforms and accountability passed. The bills restore civil oversight of police and establish greater transparency for handling police misconduct, establish minimum standards of force, and limit the use of no-knock warrants. Most impressive to me, the first state to enact a so-called law enforcement Bill of Rights, Maryland became the first to repeal it, the police union's primary tool to shield its members from accountability to the public they are sworn to protect and defend. The General Assembly vetoed the governor's vetoes, overrode the governor's vetoes of all these bills, so they all became law. Also, a separate bill passed in 2021, which bans a life sentence of prison without possibility of parole for youth under 18. As you know, because of a racist law enforcement system and school-to-prison pipeline, African Americans are overrepresented among the people sentenced to life without parole for crimes for which they were convicted before they were adults. Again, the General Assembly overrode the governor's veto of this and a veto closing the loophole for long gun background checks. So I say, let's view the repeal of the pro-Confederate state song as symbolic of these very real policy corrections. A friend of mine critiqued the Free State song, our song, as a possible replacement, saying that the lyrics overrepresent Black historical figures as compared to white relative to the Maryland population. I argued back, I think of this song as reparative, as in reparations. Marylanders have been singing in praise of slavery, Lincoln as a tyrant, and the Union Army as Northern scum for 70 years, to the tune of a Christmas carol. How inclusive did that feel to people who weren't Christian? So it's entirely appropriate to enter a period during which we sing in praise of mostly Black advocates for freedom, justice, equality, and only 2 white Marylanders, one environmental activist and one poet. This is especially true when you realize that it's been mostly children singing the song for these 70 years in school of all places. As you heard from Polly, as the video production team was choosing the images for the video, we were careful to show all kinds of people and scenes from around the state, white as well as Black elected officials. You may have noticed the late Barbara Mikulski, John and Paul Sarbanes, Steny Hoyer, Jamie Raskin, of course, and former Republican Congresswoman Connie Morella in the video. As Polly said, we wanted everyone to be able to see themselves and places they love in the images. In fact, she didn't mention this, but she took the Welcome to Prince George's County photo herself. If there was any doubt about the power of symbols, it was laid to rest on January 6th when we saw the Confederate flag used as a ramrod for the violent invasion of the US Capitol. A symbol of evil originated in the past, causing present-day mayhem, injury, death, and destruction in the halls of American democracy. Maryland's pro-Confederate state song would have to be repealed after that. Well, how do symbols get their power? From us, from humans, of course. And when they no longer retain their power, they are just words. We choose which flag, we choose which song. We design and sew the flag, we compose the song, we write the lyrics. But whence comes their power? Nearly 50 years ago, I took a college course on religious symbolism. The one thing I still remember from that class is that symbols are powerful because they point beyond themselves to something greater and draw from deeper than the words, images, or tunes suggest. What I also know now is that an idea that I encountered in that class, that the word God is a symbol, was an early stepstone on my path to Unitarian Universalism. What I didn't remember until preparing for this sermon is that these ideas were those of 20th century German Protestant theologian Paul Tillich. He was dismissed from his teaching position in Germany when Hitler became chancellor and recruited to Union Theological Seminary in New York by Reinhold Niebuhr, who wrote our opening words this morning. Tillich wrote, "Symbols point beyond themselves to something else, and they participate in that to which they point. A symbol opens up hidden depths of our own being, our soul. Symbols cannot be produced intentionally. They grow out of the individual or collective unconscious and cannot function without being accepted by the unconscious dimension of our being. Symbols which have an especially social function, as political and religious symbols, are created or at least accepted by the collective unconscious of the group in which they appear. Symbols cannot be invented. Like living beings, they grow and they die. They grow when the situation is ripe for them, and they die when the situation changes. Symbols do not grow because people are longing for them, and they do not die because of scientific or practical criticism. They die because they can no longer produce response in the group where they originally found expression. Now I'm wearing a symbol this morning, my favorite stole. In Unitarian Universalism, the stole is a sign of ordination, representing the mantle of ministry, often a beautiful work of fabric art like mine. My colleague, Reverend Paul Oakley, wrote for his ordination, "As with many Unitarian Universalist things, a stole draws on the different strands of our heritage. A stole harkens back to the Jewish prayer shawl, but also to the sash that signified authority in the Roman Empire. For some Christians, it reminds them of the cloth with which Jesus dried his disciples' feet." So he concluded, spirituality, authority, and humility mingle in this stole. My stole to me is a symbol that points beyond itself to the authority, spirituality, and humility entailed in ministry. But it has greater power than my many other stoles because it also points to love. It was designed and sewn by some of you as a gift for my installation as your settled minister. A few months ago, I had reason to learn its story from the coordinator of the effort, Deb Rubenstein. When some folks got together to talk about what the stole should be like, they wanted it to represent my love of nature and my love for the children of the congregation, two things they already knew about me after only a few months, but how to do both. Reversible, of course. So the fabrics on this side, which I know you can't see very much of, are mostly leafy in all shades of green, my favorite color. And this piece here with the chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism, is my most favorite shade of green, but I doubt they knew that. Some of the fabric was new and some was left over from the quilt presented to my predecessors as a goodbye gift, a reminder of the continuity and resiliency of ministry over the years here. For the other side, unbeknownst to me, one Sunday in RE, the kids were invited to draw colorful butterflies, which were transferred to cloth and sewn on this lovely ivory fabric. 7 for our then 7 principles. I just love that the children helped to create my stole. I always gave couples getting married a choice of which of my stoles I would wear for their wedding, if any, and it was often the case that they chose this one and its butterfly side. Now, with only one hand, I can't do very well to get this, oops, here comes some help, stole adjusted. And I hope you could see it when I was showing it. Thank you, Don. The love that went into the creation of this stole resonates with my growing love for the congregation over the years we did ministry together. Through my partial recovery and resignation, then as the next settled minister welcomed me back to participate as I wished, and now into the present moment, joining you as Minister Emerita in welcoming our new minister, Reverend Ann Kadlachek, as you begin your ministry with her. This stole points to the power of love to sustain, transform, and guide if we so allow. And as Paul Tillich said, like all symbols, this stole also participates in that to which it points. The result of that participation, I believe, is the deepening of human commitments to that to which the symbol points. And that, my friends, is why symbols have power. They deepen the human commitments to that to which they point. Likewise, if Marylanders want to have a new state song, we need one like the one we heard today, which points to and participates in our love for our state and deepens our commitments. May it symbolize the many new, more just, and climate-friendly policies we enact after 2021. We will be that much closer to building a land and living in a state where justice shall roll down like waters and peace like an ever-flowing stream, and where our lifestyle is sustainable by the earth's resources for unforeseeable generations into the future. Symbols can do that, and so can we. So may it be. Amen. May our lives be rich in symbols, both public and personal. May they point to and participate in realities beyond and deeper than ourselves, strengthening our commitments to that to which we hold most dear. Amen.